John Colter is sprinting barefoot through the freezing timber, completely naked and completely unarmed. Behind him is a war party of Blackfeet warriors. Surrender is not an option. If they catch him, he dies. His only chance is to outrun heavily armed hunters through lethal terrain. At the start of the 19th century, the American West is a vast, unmapped void to outsiders. There are no roads, no supply depots, and no rescue parties. Entering this vacuum requires a new kind of frontiersmen. They are pulled westward by a massive, highly lucrative European demand for beaver fur. These men sever all ties with civilization. They are explorers and trappers who live entirely off the grid, disappearing into the mountains for months or even years at a time. They become known as mountain men. Colter survives by applying the specific wilderness survival methods that define the mountain men. The human threat in the wild is secondary to the environment itself. A mountain man faces sub-zero winters, constant isolation, and apex predators like grizzly bears and timber wolves. Without supply lines, they build their own shelters from felled timber and natural earth. If they fail to hunt, they starve. European wool is useless here. Instead, they survive through cultural blending. They shed their eastern coats for thick buckskin and heavy furs, adopting the exact clothing designed to withstand the Rocky Mountain winter. That integration goes deep. They learn local trapping techniques, learn to identify medicinal plants, and forge complex trading alliances with various Native American tribes. A rifle provides temporary defense, but true endurance comes from adapting to the environment and the people already living in it. Physical endurance means nothing if you run in circles. Look at this map. This represents the blank, uncharted topography of the early West. Navigating it requires an internal compass and a perfect memory of thousands of square miles of terrain. Jim Bridger masters this spatial navigation better than anyone. Speaking multiple native languages, he acts as a scout, linking isolated valleys into the vital routes that will eventually become the Oregon Trail. By tracking rivers and mountain passes, Bridger becomes one of the first European Americans to lay eyes on the massive, sweeping expanse of the Great Salt Lake. This deep immersion in the landscape uncovers bizarre geological phenomena. Trappers return with reports of rivers that boil and mud that violently erupts from the arc in the region we now know as Yellowstone. The geography is so alien to people back east that they outright dismiss the reports as wild, drunken myths. Newspapers sarcastically dub the steaming landscape Colter's Hell, but these men know exactly where they are. Mapping the unmapped is the primary skill that separates survivors like Bridger and Colter from the bones left behind in the snow. That spatial mastery is exactly what Colter relies on as he tears through the timber, bleeding from his feet and pushing his lungs to the point of collapse. He calculates his route on the fly. He knows the terrain better than his pursuers expect, forcing them to spread out and lose his trail in the dense brush. He dives into a freezing river, hiding under a jam of floating logs until the hunting party gives up and passes him by. He then walks hundreds of miles back to a trading post, armed with nothing but raw instinct. Colter walks out of the timber alive, providing a definitive record of mountain man resilience. While these survival methods allowed men to inhabit the void, the economic conditions that kept them there were failing. This chart shows the fur trade's rapid decline. By the 1840s, the beaver population collapses, and Europeans abandon fur hats for silk. Without this trade, Western isolation shatters. Railroads carve straight lines through valleys, and land is cleared for farming. The wilderness requires commerce, not solitary survivalists. Outposts like Fort Bridger spring up, replacing hidden trapping camps with wooden palisades and permanent trade counters. The mountain men engineer their own obsolescence. The same hidden trails they memorize to survive are the exact paths used by thousands of covered wagons pouring into the territory. John Colter and Jim Bridger conquer the blank spots on the map. They serve as the crucial human bridge between an untamed wilderness and the modern American frontier.